Hey guys, welcome to Midweek Live. If you don't know me and if you're new here, my name is Alan. I'm one of the pastors here on staff at Spring Creek Church. Midweek Live is something that we do for our students where they can still listen to messages and still listen to God's Word while not even, meeting in person here. Now, before I get started in today's message, I really want to be real with you guys first. I'm sure you've seen it all over the news, all over social media and everything of the current state of our society. It's rough and it's broken. And it's been broken. I today am in no way speaking on a specific side or speaking for a specific group of people at all. Nor do I want to sway you to think a specific way politically just because that's not my job at all. But I will say I'm on the side of love and Christ. And he is known for loving and caring for the hurting. And I'll say it to you now, I am hurting. I'm hurting for all my black brothers and sisters all over the country. And I'm hurting that they feel betrayed. I'm hurting that they feel abandoned. But all that I really want to do today is help you guys think differently than the status quo and point you guys in a direction that faces Christ himself into love as he loved. Now, today I'm going to actually finish up the story on Joseph, and I want you guys to look back at the things that he did and see how it can apply to yourselves today. Now, this guy had a super rough life. Way in the beginning, his brothers betrayed him and left him for dead. But if that wasn't enough, they also sold him into slavery and to Egypt and to a foreign land where Joseph didn't know anybody. Then he rose to be the right-hand man of Potiphar, who was a high up guy in Egypt. And then he was thrown into jail for something he didn't do. In all these aspects, he still had faith that God would deliver him from evil. He then was released from jail to work right under the Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. He interpreted a dream for Pharaoh that would predict what would happen next in all of their land with the help of God, of course. And what he predicted was that there's going to be a huge famine and a shortage of food. Now, since Joseph has been right about all the other dreams that he's been interpreted, Pharaoh listened to him and prepared his land for the upcoming famine. And then the famine hit. Not just Egypt, but all of the surrounding lands as well, including the lands where Joseph was from, where his dad and his brothers still lived. Now, so Israel, Joseph's dad, sent his brothers to Egypt to have food, to ask for food, because they were starving. Now, Joseph's family did not expect to run into Joseph in Egypt. His brothers did not expect to run into him in Egypt at all. They thought he was dead. They thought they sold him to slavery and then it was done. And so they arrived at Egypt and they came to the footsteps of Joseph and they did not recognize him at all. A lot of drama unfolded between chapters 42 through 50, and I won't get into it, but I encourage you guys to read through it and just kind of get some more backstory of this movie, Joseph's movie. But let's pick it up right in chapter 45. I'm going to be reading Genesis chapter 45, verses 1 through 3. Then Joseph could not control himself before all those who stood by him. He cried, "Make everyone go out from me." So no one stayed with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. And he wept aloud so that the Egyptians heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard it. And Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed at his presence. Now imagine the tension and the emotion in that moment. Joseph was face to face with his brothers, his own flesh and blood, the same guys that sold him into slavery and tried to kill him. And his brothers were at his feet right then and there, begging for food and for help. This was the perfect moment for Joseph to just wreck their shop, to get revenge back for all the atrocities that his brothers caused him, all the pain that had built up over the years, just get payback. Honestly, if it were me, I would give them the same exact suffering that I faced. I would put them in jail, I would sell them into slavery, I would make them feel all my pain, all my sorrow, all my hurt, times 20, because I was the second in command behind Pharaoh. I might even, have them killed. I would make sure that they felt all of my pain, all of my agony, all of the loneliness I felt, the betrayal and the sorrow. And honestly, being a what would you do? And be honest with yourself. You might, say the Sunday school answer and be like, oh, I wouldn't do anything. I would forgive them and care for them. No. Ask yourself what you would truly do. If you had all the power that Joseph had, would you hurt the people that hurt you the most? Then Joseph then asked his brothers to walk over and stand close to him. Probably thinking, oh, here it comes. And I bet those guys were freaking out too, because they're like, oh man, here it comes. But Joseph said this in verses 4-7. Come near me, please. And they came near. And he said, I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. And now do not be dismayed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here, for God sent me before you to preserve life. For the famine has been in the land these 2 years, and there are yet 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve you for the remnant of the earth, and to keep alive for you many survivors. And there is only one reason Joseph responded the way that he did. He didn't even attempt to get payback because he let go of the entire idea of revenge. He had already done the hardest part, which was forgiveness. Now, how do we know that for sure? Truly, how do we know that he actually forgave them? Well, because Joseph could look into their eyes that caused them so much pain and so much grief and care about how his brothers were feeling. He said, do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. He acknowledged their wrong and hurt without creating more hurt. Only someone who was fully healed could have done that. Now, Joseph chose forgiveness over payback, and we see that in that moment when we had the greatest opportunity for revenge. He had all the cards laid out to just wreck their shop, but he didn't. But somewhere between being sold into slavery and being reunited with his brothers, Joseph did the hard work by giving his hurt to God and giving it all of his pain to God and allowing God to be the central of his healing. Now that's why Joseph was quick to acknowledge God in the area where his brothers had caused him the most pain. He said, God put me here for a reason. It wasn't just an accident, and it was for my healing and for our healing. Now I'm not saying what he said and everything that God did for him made what his brothers did to Joseph okay. It didn't make Joseph's pain any less whenever he was going through it. It just took the real pain and real hurt and no longer put them at the center of the stage. It instead put God in the center of the stage. And that made forgiveness possible. That made healing possible. Forgiveness was not only for his brothers, it was freedom from his own pain too. Forgiveness for himself for having so much hatred towards them. Now after this, he sought to bring his father and entire family to live with him in Egypt, to kind of run away from the famine and be there safe and present with Joseph. They sought reconciliation. God does the impossible and showed love to those who hurt. And I know I have a diverse crowd here. There are students who are afraid for their lives, their families' lives, their friends' lives, just because of the color of their skin. And there's small group leaders who are on the front lines as police officers in SWAT gear. And there's students whose parents are police officers. And here's the thing, whichever applies to you, there is hurt and uneasiness, whichever side you are on, whichever place you stand. But that is where God is calling us to be like Joseph. Not a call to win a fight, not a call to argue, to make your point heard on Facebook or Twitter and make everyone believe that you're right, but a call to love. 1 John 3:17-18 says, "But if anyone has the world's goods and sees his brothers in need, yet closes his heart against him, how does God's love abide in him? Little children, let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and in truth." Let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and in truth. Just like Joseph, empathize with those hurting. Hear them out. Elevate their positions and purpose. Have their voices be your voice. Educate yourself with the struggles. Don't try to just understand their hurt and understand where they're coming from. Feel the hurt with them. To those expressing your hurt and your struggles, to those of y'all that are feeling this prejudice and this betrayal, understand that your brothers and sisters in Christ are in it with you as well. And they want to help and they want to learn, but it's your job to educate them. Educate me, educate all of us. Educate them to hurt the same way that you are hurting. God did not call us to fight evil with more evil, y'all. God called us to rise up to this top and show His love. An active love that's not just on the sidelines. An active love that can run marathons, that can go the full mile. Showing a love is the same love that Christ showed us whenever He died on the cross. When He laid His life down. And the thing is, y'all, Jesus didn't just lay His life down for some of us. Jesus didn't lay His life down just for a specific group of us. But He laid His life down for all of us. Jesus wasn't a Republican. Jesus wasn't a Democrat. Jesus didn't just die for people of color or people without color. Jesus died for all of us. And that's a fact. And I'm not saying that this is the type of love that I'm encouraging y'all to express to others is going to fix everything. Just like how Joseph forgave his brothers, it did not make his pain disappear. But that's where the healing and the forgiveness started. Showing this act of love today will not make the hate and hurt disappear in our society at all. But I will in fact say that the act of love is present to overcome the enemy and overcome the hate. So whatever you're seeing on social medias, I'm not taking a side. And we as a church, we're not taking a specific side. But the only side that we're taking, the only stance that we're making is for Christ and His love. An active, never-ending love today that doesn't stop whenever the going gets tough. I encourage you all to keep your hearts open, keep your minds open, because we're experiencing history today. And I encourage you all to share this with your friends and your family. If you see hate online, if you see the hurt online, just hear out the hate, hear out the hurt, but also share the message of love, the same love that Christ shared for us. We need to keep this dialogue of active love active. Thanks, guys.